Could Nigel Farage become the United Kingdom's Prime Minister in 2029? The possibility of Nigel Farage, a polarizing yet undeniably influential figure, becoming Prime Minister of the United Kingdom in 2029 might once have seemed an improbable notion. Yet, as global political trends evolve, once dismissed candidates are breaking through established norms and ascending to power. Farage's career has been defined by defiance, resilience, and a remarkable ability to reinvent himself in the public eye. If there is one lesson to be learned from his political journey, it is this: never underestimate his capacity to influence the British political landscape. This article explores the intricate web of historical, political, and social factors that could lead to Farage's improbable rise, dissecting everything from his personal brand of populism to the weaknesses of his potential rivals, and even the profound implications his leadership could have for the UK and the world. The pollster has set out a scenario which could see Nigel Farage enter 10 Downing Street. Martin Baxter of Electoral Calculus used a graph to show how many seats the polling company predicts Reform UK would win with different vote shares. At a hypothetical general election, he said that if the rebranded Brexit Party secures 28% of the vote share, it could become the largest party in the House of Commons. Under such a scenario, the Brexit architect could become Prime Minister in coalition with the Tories as junior partners. Reform would likely have an overall majority if it reaches 31%. Mr. Baxter told GB News. The graph here is showing the number of seats that Reform will win, under our predictions, against the vote share they get. But the interesting thing is that at the moment they're on 15% support and just 5 seats. If they can get up to 25% support in the polls, they get about 100 seats. The really interesting thing for the year ahead is if they do a bit better than 25%, if they can push through that. They might or they might not, but if they get up to 28%, it's only slightly more than that. They're actually the largest party in the House of Commons. Mr. Baxter said Labour, which has seen support nosedive since July's election, and the Tories are both currently on an average of 26% in their polling. While Mr. Farage's insurgent party is on 22%, it comes after Reform overtook Sir Keir Starmer's party in a national poll for the first time earlier this month. The party has been building momentum, with a series of key defections from the Conservatives and passing the milestone of 100,000 members. The next general election is not due to take place until 2029. Farage's political trajectory is a case study in the rise of modern populism. Born in 1964 and educated at Dulwich College, Farage initially pursued a career in commodities trading. However, his Eurosceptic beliefs led him to join the fledgling UK Independence Party, UKIP, in 1993. At that time, UKIP was a minor political force, largely dismissed by mainstream politicians and the media alike. Farage's leadership brought UKIP into the limelight, transforming it into a formidable pressure group that played a pivotal role in influencing Conservative Party policies on Europe. By positioning himself as the voice of ordinary Britons disillusioned with the political establishment, Farage tapped into growing frustrations over issues such as uncontrolled immigration, economic inequality, and the perceived erosion of national sovereignty. 2004 European elections. Farage led UKIP to its first major electoral breakthrough, securing 12 seats in the European Parliament. This marked the beginning of his ascendancy as a political disruptor. 2014 European elections, UKIP won a stunning victory, becoming the largest UK party in the European Parliament. This was a turning point that forced then Prime Minister David Cameron to pledge a referendum on EU membership. 2016 Brexit referendum. Farage's crowning achievement was the Leave. 2016 Brexit referendum. Farage's crowning achievement was the Leave campaign's victory in the EU referendum. Though officially not part of the main Vote Leave group, Farage's relentless advocacy for Brexit galvanized millions of voters. Post-Brexit influence. After stepping down as UKIP leader, Farage founded the Brexit Party in 2019, which secured a resounding victory in the European elections, reinforcing his status as the figurehead of the Brexit movement. To understand how Farage could potentially become Prime Minister, it is essential to consider the state of UK politics leading up to 2029. The following factors are likely to shape the political environment. A. The decline of traditional parties. Both the Conservative and Labour parties are facing long-term challenges. The Conservatives, after years of internal division over Brexit and a series of scandals, are struggling to maintain their reputation as a competent governing party. Labour, while currently on an upward trajectory, faces skepticism from voters who remember its previous failures under leaders like Jeremy Corbyn. This leaves a vacuum for alternative voices to emerge. B. The rise of single-issue politics. In an era of growing polarization, voters are increasingly rallying around single issues rather than broad party platforms. Farage's ability to frame complex debates, such as immigration or the cost of living crisis, in simple, emotionally resonant terms gives him a significant advantage in this environment. See voter fatigue with establishment politics. Populist leaders thrive when voters feel alienated from traditional political elites. Farage's outsider persona, cultivated over decades, positions him as an appealing alternative to career politicians whom voters perceive as disconnected from their daily struggles. Farage's path to Downing Street would require a carefully calibrated strategy. Unlike previous campaigns that focused almost exclusively on Brexit, he would need to broaden his appeal and add. Although the UK has formally left the EU, Farage could argue that Brexit has not been fully realised. He might advocate for cutting residual ties with European institutions, strengthening the UK's borders, and renegotiating trade deals that he deems unfavourable. Economic reform. Farage's economic policies would likely focus on reducing taxes, cutting red tape, and promoting free market solutions to stimulate growth. He could also position himself as a champion of small businesses, promising to protect them from the burdens of excessive regulation. See immigration. Immigration has always been a central theme of Farage's rhetoric. In a 2029 campaign, he might call for even stricter controls, including caps on asylum seekers and a crackdown on illegal immigration. Law and order. Farage could capitalize on public concerns about crime by proposing tough-on-crime policies, increased funding for police forces, and harsher sentences for offenders. National identity and cultural issues. Farage is adept at tapping into cultural grievances. He might focus on issues such as cancel culture, free speech, and the preservation of British traditions, framing himself as a defender of the country's heritage. 4. Overcoming the electoral system. The UK's first-past-the-post system poses a significant challenge for smaller parties. However, Farage could pursue several strategies to overcome this obstacle. Building a coalition. Farage might seek to form alliances with disillusioned MPs from other parties, particularly those on the right of the Conservative Party. A coalition could help him gain credibility and access to broader resources. Focusing on marginal seats. By targeting constituencies where voter dissatisfaction with mainstream parties is highest, Farage could concentrate his efforts on winnable seats, avoiding the need for nationwide dominance. Leveraging media influence. Farage's media presence is one of his strongest assets. Through talk shows, social media, Farage's rise would not occur in isolation. International developments could play a crucial role in shaping his prospects. The global populist wave. The continued success of populist leaders worldwide suggests that Farage's brand of politics remains viable. Economic uncertainty, cultural clashes, and geopolitical tensions all contribute to the appeal of strongman leaders. Post-Brexit trade relations. Farage's leadership could signal a shift in the UK's approach to trade and diplomacy. While he might seek closer ties with non-EU countries, his combative stance toward Europe could lead to tensions. 6. Challenges and risks. Despite his strengths, Farage faces significant challenges. Polarization. Farage is a deeply polarizing figure, and his candidacy could mobilize opposition from a broad coalition of voters. Lack of parliamentary experience. Critics might argue that Farage lacks the experience needed to lead a complex institution like Parliament. Sustainability of populism. Populist movements often struggle to maintain momentum once in power. As governing requires compromise and pragmatism, Farage as Prime Minister would mark a dramatic shift in British politics. His policies and rhetoric could redefine the UK's identity, for better or worse. Domestically, his focus on sovereignty and cultural issues might resonate with some voters while alienating others. Internationally, his leadership could reshape the UK's role on the global stage, potentially isolating it further from Europe while fostering closer ties with nations like the United States. While the idea of Nigel Farage becoming Prime Minister in 2029 might seem improbable, it is far from impossible. His ability to harness public discontent, articulate a clear vision, and disrupt traditional party politics makes him a formidable figure. Whether or not he succeeds, his influence on British politics is undeniable, and his potential candidacy will undoubtedly be a subject of intense speculation in the years